This week on the Baseline Podcast, it's rivalry week. It's Josh and I's favorite time of the year, especially for college football, where you have so many big games with so much on the line, so much at stake. And we're talking about the Egg Bowl. We're talking about Alabama versus Auburn. We're talking about the game, Michigan versus Ohio State. We give you predictions and what will happen and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and it's rivalry week. Not between Josh and I, by no means. No, there's no rivalry here. But it is rivalry week. Obviously, you have all the big games, which we will be talking about all of those big games coming up. We're talking about some other things as well. But before we get into it, Josh, how was your weekend? How has life been here the last few days in Ohio?
We still are maintaining warm weather. We got to watch some of the bigger college football games last week. Washington, Oregon State was really solid. And then outside of that, Cleveland comes out with the win over Pittsburgh.
True.
So get to split that series win this season. And defensive, ugly game, but yeah, life's been solid.
Well, you know, it's gotten cold here, so I wish I could say that it was like you. But, you know, it's just cold over here in Europe right now. But no, actually, Ohio went for a sweep, by the way, Josh, past weekend, because the Cavs got to win, the Browns got to win, and the Ohio State got to win. So the Ohio swept this weekend. So that's
we'll take it.
Fun. Yeah, it's fun. It's a win for Ohio. But no, Josh, I know we talked about before the show. There's not really much from last week we could really talk about because I think it's kind of obvious that there wasn't many great games last week. But I think we did want to touch on the new CFP rankings. And Josh, I have a question for you. I don't know if you read what the committee said, but if you guys didn't realize, there's not much change in the top 10 outside of Washington jumped Florida State. Now, Josh has always said that he felt that Washington should be above Florida State. But were you interested in their comments there, Josh, how it had nothing to do with a Jordan Travis injury?
I mean, if it had nothing to do with Jordan Travis's injury, I don't know how they dropped them. What was the reasoning for them being ahead of Washington all along then? They could have just come out and said Washington added another ranked win, because I think that's their fourth this season. And that would have been fine with me. But
yeah. It just feels like if you're a Florida State fan, I feel like it's just like the committee's taken like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's weird because if you look at Ohio State, in 2014, right? They lost 2 starting quarterbacks. You know, they were still able to do something and obviously win the national title. I'm not saying Florida State's going to do that, but I just feel it's really weird. It's just kind of a bad look. Like, you know, they say that we don't project, but you are projecting because you're basically saying that Florida State's not going to be in there without their starting quarterback. And maybe they won't be. But I will hate to be that committee if they go undefeated and you have Washington's in there undefeated or maybe with one loss with Oregon. It's about to be chaotic, Josh, and that's what we love college football for, right? That's why we love college football.
Oh yeah.
So we look at this week. We look at this week coming up. Where should we start? Because this is a kind of a wild week. There's obviously a lot of great games that happen. There's games on Friday. There's games on Saturday. What do you got? What should we do?
Why don't we work chronologically? We have the Egg Bowl happening on Thanksgiving Day at 7:30.
The names for some of these bowl games, some of these like rivalry games is just ridiculous. I'm sorry. This is happening tomorrow, so this episode probably won't be out by the time we get it out. But Ole Miss is at Mississippi State. Ole Miss coming off, what was it? The beatdown of Georgia just a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And then since it was FCS last week in the SEC, really
they defeated UL Monroe 35-3. So Mississippi State's the home team this year, and right now Ole Miss is going in as a 10-point favorite. Yeah. Mississippi State's had, I think, a disappointing season this year. Some people thought with all the veteran leadership they had, they might be able to make a little bit of noise, but they're 5-6 right now. So,
yeah, I think we both can agree. I mean, unless you're going to go wild here, but I think Ole Miss wins this. I think they need to have a little comeback victory, taste of victory, not a bad team, but like an actual SEC opponent. And I think Ole Miss wins this game. I want to say Ole Miss puts up 40. I think it's going to be like 42 to like, I want to say like 17. I think it's going to be a nice little butt whooping.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a close game. I would pick Ole Miss to cover that, actually. And the reason why is the way that Jackson Dart's played lately. Like, I'm going to go ahead and give him an excuse in the Georgia game since Georgia's Georgia. But all the other SEC teams he's been playing, he's been right around that 250-yard mark. Against Texas A&M, he had 387 yards and 2 touchdowns. Against Auburn, he had 202 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
The LSU game, he had 389 yards and 4 touchdowns. Alabama, he had 244 yards, didn't have a touchdown though. So coming into Mississippi State here, I think he can get the job done.
And they
here.
got
Lane
a really
Kiffin's
good
gonna
running
get
back too. They got a really good running back too, Judkins.
Yeah, for sure. And then that's going to give Lane Kiffin a 10-win season if that's the case. So I think that's not something that always happens at Ole Miss. So it's definitely something that they have to play for if it's not for a playoff spot.
The question is, I know we're not going to talk about last week, but like obviously with Lincoln Riley on the hot seat, do you think Lane Kiffin's a name that if Lincoln Riley gets fired from USC, do you see Lane Kiffin as that guy?
I don't even think Lincoln Riley's on the hot seat, honestly.
No. I'm just saying projection wise, like let's just say that for some reason USC decides to move. Let's just say that. Do you think Lane Kiffin, if any job opens, is he willing to move, or do you think he has like found a home there at Ole Miss?
So he did sign an extension, I think, over either last year or the year before.
Yeah, I know that.
It's weird how the way that Mississippi State law works with how much you can get paid and contracts and stuff like that. So that's always, I think, going to hold them back from keeping around any good coach long term. But I think he really wanted that Auburn job, and then they ended up going the Hugh Freeze route.
Yeah.
And I think he also might be holding out for the Alabama job once Nick Saban retires.
He's just sitting there like waiting. He's like, I hate Alabama, but
but Lane Kiffin has been the head coach at USC before when he was way younger and probably way less undeserving. He's been the wide receivers coach over there, so he's gone through the system. It's not it could be something that Hugh could want to go back to, but I don't know. I think his style of coaching, where you hit the portal really heavy and you're heavy on offense and not so much on the defensive side, although Ole Miss has played better defense as of lately, it's just not going to fix the issue that's going on at USC right now.
And when you're going into the Big Ten, where defense is a priority, I mean, if you look at the top 5 defenses in the college football, 4 of the top 5 scoring defenses are from the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, so I don't know if it would be the best fit, but maybe interesting. Like I said, too, I don't even think – USC's 7-5. Lincoln Riley's still early on in this thing. I think they're going to, with everything that they gave him, give him a little bit more time.
All I'm saying is that he better
get disappointing.
He better get that defensive coordinator job right. He better make that a very good hire, or else he's going to be in the same roller coaster.
Dang, who would have thought Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley would be going 7-5? Not I.
No, we both – I think we both said what, like 8 – we said 9-3 at the worst, I think we both said. I think we said like 9-3.
I think so. And then when they had that one game where the defense just basically lost them their first game, it's like this could honestly be like a
and we said
7-5 season at the worst, kind of like that's we were the worst case.
In a sense, we were kind of like joking, like there's no way. Like you have the Heisman winner from last year, but let's be honest, Caleb hasn't necessarily looked like I think Caleb last year, and he's kind of at times looked a little rusty, as they would say.
Yeah, if you're going to repeat as Heisman, you got to have a better season than you did the year before. And
it definitely
hasn't been that way as a team or really as an individual either, I'd say.
Which we will get to those rankings later in the show. But next rivalry game, Josh, let's hit it.
Yeah, so Friday, we don't have a ton happening. We do have the Civil War.
Right? Do we have
Oregon State at Oregon. What's Iowa's
do they play Nebraska, right? Isn't it Iowa versus Nebraska?
Iowa at Nebraska on Friday.
Yes, that's right. Because it's all. The only reason I remember that is because we have like this parade in my hometown, and for some reason that game's always on during the parade, and I just remember, like it's always the game that is on. So that's
Friday at noon. Nebraska 5-6, Iowa 9-2. Nebraska's the 2.5 point.
They have to win
favorite in this one. They got to win to be bowl eligible. They got to win to be bowl eligible. Also, I think Iowa already has the Big Ten West clinched.
They do. Yes. Well, fun fact though is that. There are, I believe, I think it's like 60 some teams that are bowl eligible, or no, I forget. There's a certain amount of teams that are bowl eligible, and James Madison and Jacksonville State are hoping that a bunch of these 5-win teams don't win, so that they're allowed to go in because since they're in the 2-year process, the only way they can make a bowl game is if there's not enough 6-win teams. So they're praying that there's a bunch of 5-win teams that lose. So that's kind of what they're hoping for.
Gotcha.
But anyways, they also are dropping their lawsuit because for some reason they decided let's sue the NCAA, which never works. But anyways, I looking at you said Oregon State, correct?
Yeah, the Civil War. That's probably the biggest one.
Yeah,
because
it is.
Oregon's got that rematch coming up with Washington, hopefully in the Pac-12 championship and the playoffs.
And again, it's not. And again, this is like Oregon State. This is their shot because if they beat Oregon, then it changes the dynamic of that championship game because I believe that would give Oregon 2 losses. I believe, correct?
It would. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Pac-12
Because I know
standings right
Washington's
now.
guaranteed in there. So then now that leaves
Washington is guaranteed. So right now, as I'm looking at it right now, I don't know if there would be a tiebreaker between Arizona and Oregon because that's who's in line next. As far as conference records go, yeah, Washington's 8-0, Oregon's 7-1, Arizona's 6-2.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one. But no, I think Oregon State has a big, they almost beat Washington. I mean, they were minutes, I feel, at times away from beating Washington. But I'll be honest with you, Josh, the way Bo Nix is playing right now, I do not know if Oregon State can slow him down and that offense. And also I believe Oregon's defense is better than Washington's defense. So I at the end of the day, I think Oregon wins this game. I think it's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be like 28-24. I'm gonna go Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon State came so close.
So close, dude.
With Washington watching the game there. Yeah.
That would have just messed up everything.
The rain was making some crazy stuff happen there. But yeah, they do have a chance here to really shake things up. But I think Oregon, since that initial matchup with Washington, has been playing better overall football. Yeah. Washington's been playing good football too. It's just been close. And I haven't seen Oregon getting too many.
I just want to see that rematch, man. I just want to see that rematch.
We really do. Yeah, that's another thing that I want to see too. So there is, I guess, some scenario here where Arizona can get in. It looks like tiebreaker situations, but as long as Oregon wins.
Yeah. So who do you got in the game there, Josh?
I'm taking Oregon, but I do think this is going to be one of the closer games that Oregon's had lately just because of everything
Oregon State
riding on it.
Is legit. So Oregon State's legit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if anything, yeah.
Also, what did you think about the old ruling that came out that we shared on our story about how Oregon State and what's the other team that's left? Oh, Washington State are allowed to be a 2-team conference next year.
They're allowed to be if they want.
They're allowed to be a 2-team conference. What? I'm sorry.
Wouldn't Stanford be in that too? Has Stanford left anything?
No, because they're going to ACC, remember?
Stanford's joining ACC?
Yeah.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah. So Cal and Stanford join ACC. So like, really? Like, we're just going to do this like 2-team thing? Like, seriously? The Pac-12? Like, what?
Cal.
They want to do it, I guess, for the money.
Atlantic Coast Conference.
They want to do it, I guess. They want to do it for the money or something like that. So, anyways, I just thought that was funny.
All right. Here's another rivalry game that I think is going to be interesting on Fridays. Texas Tech at Texas. Ooh, Texas has had some close calls lately.
They have.
Let me remind you, Ben, they have defeated Kansas State 33-30. They've defeated TCU 29-26. And they've defeated Iowa State 26-16 in their last 3 games.
Yeah.
I think after that Bama game, we might have projected them a little too high because
I think everyone did. Everyone did.
Yeah, everybody did. It's not just us. They haven't looked all that fabulous. Plus, Jonathan Brooks is out for the rest of the season. They're superstar running back, I believe. And even having Quinn Ewers back, it doesn't look like it's giving them the boost.
He doesn't, but he also doesn't look the same. He doesn't look the same since he got hurt.
Yeah, I'm about to check these Pac-12 standings right now because Texas is in the lead in the Big 12, and I don't know if that loss
it's Arch Manning
anything
time.
Up.
Man. It's Arch Manning time.
It's Arch Manning time. There's actually 3 teams, excuse me, 3 teams that are 6-2 right now in the conference. So I don't know if, assuming like we get some wins from those teams and Texas loses, what kind of scenario we get here, but it's going to be interesting. Maybe it's not all the way clinched. I don't know if Texas has clinched a Big 12 spot. Have they?
I don't remember if they have or not.
Because
they're one loss, so I don't think they can. They're not undefeated.
Well, Texas's loss is in conference.
That's what I'm saying though. Like they have 1 loss in the conference, but if there's 3 teams tied with 2 losses in conference, that means like the only way they can clinch would mean that like there's no way for them not to make the championship.
Is like the tiebreaker like default by like overall record?
I wonder if it's head to head. Because doesn't Oklahoma have 2 or 3 losses in conference?
Oklahoma's one of those 6-2 teams.
So that's what I'm saying. And Oklahoma beat
Kansas State's one of those 6-2 teams, and Texas beat them. And Oklahoma State is a 6-2 team, and they didn't play Texas, so they wouldn't have like that head. I'm gonna go ahead and check that out right now, but I'm going to go ahead and say that Texas is going to get the job done as they have the last couple weeks,
Somehow.
despite the ugly looking scores. I think
I'm
they're
going
going
to
to go
say,
ahead and crawl into this Big 12 championship.
yeah, I'm going to say Texas wins like 35-21. And I'm going to say, bold prediction, I'm drilling it down, Josh. I'm saying Arch Manning plays in his first game at Texas this weekend. I don't know how, I don't know when, but Arch Manning's making his debut.
Hmm. All right, looks like Texas hasn't fully clinched yet.
See, exactly what I thought.
So they do need to win this one.
Yes. So, but
to
again,
guarantee anything. If they lose, they probably still
Yeah.
got a good shot to get in. But as long as they win, they're in.
but I will say, I'm drilling down. Arch Manning is getting to this game this week. I
This
think
is the Arch
they've
Manning
heard the
game.
noise. They've heard the noise. They need to get him in. I think it's the chance.
Is it going to be because Quinn Ewers just is playing that bad in the game, and they're going to trust a true freshman quarterback?
Trick play. Calling it trick play. By the way, if I see that happen on highlights, I'm texting you within 3 seconds and be like, "Told you."
All right. All right, so that's Friday, and then we get into Saturday with the big noon kickoff.
Oh yeah,
this is one we're gonna spend a little bit of time on. I feel like it's Ohio State at Michigan.
That's team up north this week.
Both teams 11-0, number 2 and 3 teams in the country right now in the playoff rankings,
and in our rankings.
Michigan riding a 2-game win streak right now. Ohio State looking to dethrone Michigan right now, a 3-point favorites. And this is what everybody has been waiting for and hoping for since the season started.
Yeah, because people were like, well, the game last year was versus 2 versus 3. I'm like, it's not the same vibe. Like, there's just so much going on this year. This is like a very different version. This feels more like the 2006 game than last year's game. This feels like everything's on the line because of all the stories, we hear it all the time, dealing with the Harbaugh situation and that, Ohio State's soft. There's still Michigan fans saying that they were soft. Sorry, the team up north. But it's just crazy of how many like these kind of weird, you have JJ McCarthy, who wanted to play at Ohio State his whole career, and now he's going against the guy that Ohio State chose over him, right? So you have that storyline. You have the storyline of, all the Ohio kids that go up there and are traders and they decide to ditch their roots. And then you have the kids that, are walk-on stories. You have all these different things, man, that just makes this game the game, right? For a reason. So I'm really, really looking forward to this game. And the defense is going to be about 36 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be freezing cold. And this game feels like the game. Like, it just feels so Ohio State versus the TT up north. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. But no, it is fun, man. I love it. I cannot wait. I'll be watching it here in Europe at 6 p.m. You can count on that.
You mentioned the defenses, so I'm going to go ahead and read some numbers
Ridiculous.
Here too. Ohio State is number 1 in the country right now, allowing 3.99 yards per play. Michigan is 4th at 4.21. As far as offensive touchdowns go, Ohio State has allowed only 10 offensive touchdowns this season. Michigan is 2nd with just 11 allowed this season. Now, let me tell you something else here, Ben. Ohio State, Michigan, the over-under right now, I believe it started at 47.5. It's now at 46.5.
There's no way. No way. There's no way it gets that high.
You don't think it gets that high?
Yeah, I think.
See, I thought the same thing, but I have some friends that have pointed out to me just how the last several matchups have gone.
No, I know that, but you haven't had
so
both.
The last time these teams have scored under 47.5, which is what it opened with, was in 2012 when it was 26-21. And before that, they were 37-7, so still hit the under in 2010. But in the last 9 games since 2012, then at least one team has scored 40 in 7 of those 9 games. So it's like we have all this offensive power lately, but I feel like this season's Ohio State doesn't have that same vibe. And I don't think that Michigan, while they've had good offensive play, mostly from the run game, I don't know if they're going to be able to bust off all the explosive plays that they have the last couple of years against Ohio State either. So, but there's also the adrenaline, the rivalry week. Maybe at the end of the game, if someone gets the opportunity, they're going to pad the score a little bit, and add more points, and then maybe the over hits there. But I'm feeling like this. They played Penn State basically the same way.
Yeah.
Final scores both ended up being unders there too. So I feel like this is going to be a very similar game to that. But I also understand the argument for why it may not be.
Yeah, but also I like if you would tell me the over under is like 30, I'll be like, oh yeah, for sure that could be over.
Yeah, this isn't Iowa.
Yeah, but I do think that these, I mean, even if you look at the defense, like Ohio State has the number 2 scoring defense. You know who has number 1? Michigan by 0.3. It's like 9 points a game, and Ohio State gives up 9.3 points, right? Like it's like that's how close these defenses are. Ohio State's the best pass yardage team, you know, and it's just, to me, this game is going to be who wins at the line of scrimmage. And I believe special teams, which Ohio State has struggled with all year, I believe special teams is where it's going to change the game. By the way, when was the last year Ohio State had a punt return for a touchdown? Josh, give me a guess. You just give a guess.
2014.
You are correct. Jalen Marshall, 2014.
I was going to say, was it Jalen Marshall?
Was
I
the
thought he
last
had one.
Yes, was the last guy to bring one back. Think of all the athletes that we've had in the last 10 years, and that was the last guy. I just think that this could be like the game, you know, Chris Olave blocking a punt. Like, I think it's going to take something like that. It's going to take, you know, you looked at the game last week against Minnesota, their punter pinned Ohio State back. Like if the team up north wants to do that, then they have a really good shot, because I think their defense is again very top notch. I really do. But again, they still haven't faced an offense that is equal in passing and rushing. Right? You look at Penn State; they're really a good running team, but their quarterback play with struggles in big games. You know, you look at Maryland; they just threw the ball, right? But they didn't really run the ball that well. But you look at Ohio State; they've done both the last few weeks very well and very consistently. I mean, you look at the Minnesota game, Travion Henderson, Josh, as you've said all year long, you said when Travion kind of gets healthy, that this Ohio State offense becomes a little more scary. And you have him healthy. Ibuka last week had a great game. He had 5 catches for 85. He's healthy. You have Cade Stover getting healthy. You have all these other guys getting healthy. Eichenberg's going to be back. Obviously, no Lathan Ransom. Ohio State is going to be ready for this game. And I think this is Kyle McCord's moment. Again, I think he's the X factor in this game. You know, I think everyone will say, well, JJ McCarthy is, but like we've seen what he's done in the game. We haven't seen what Kyle McCord's going to do in the game. So he kind of has to make up for CJ Stroud. Not that CJ Stroud played terrible, but you know, to get a win under the belt. So yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, 4 out of Travion Henderson's last 5 games have been over 100 yards, and he's gotten a touchdown in all of them too. That's.
By the way, did you see that 75-yard run? How he cut back and then just outran the whole team?
I did not.
The play was like directed to the right. He one step goes back, and he just stares at some of these guys as he's running by. I mean, that's just, he's a freak, and he creates this team a lot. But yeah, what are some of your do you have any bold predictions for this game? Anything that's going to like shock the world? Do you think there's going to be any type of play or anything that's going to just like that maybe no one expects is going to happen? Maybe a safety, maybe a surprise trick play. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, last year, if you would have told me that JJ McCarthy was going to throw 4 touchdowns and there was going to be some that were over 50 yards, I wouldn't have guessed that. And
yeah,
that's the thing about it being so unpredictable. Is like, is Kyle McCord gonna make some plays like that with Marvin Harrison in this game? I don't know. Is Travion Henderson going to rush for 3 touchdowns in this game? I don't know. Is Blake Corum, who leads the country in rushing touchdowns, going to actually make an impact in this game since he couldn't last year being injured? It's tough to say.
Well, I think even too, like, you know, Donovan Edwards has not been the same this year, which I think does hurt Michigan a little bit. And that does hurt them a little bit in the fact that, and even Blake Corum at times maybe hasn't looked as dominant as he did last year. I mean, he's still good, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if he's been as dominant as he was last year. You know, I've heard a lot of Michigan fans say that the one thing that scares them is how McCarthy really hasn't been relied on, or they didn't trust him the last few weeks. What is your thought on that? Do you think it's a trust issue?
Yeah, I mean, the way that you would spin it, I guess, is that in the not the Michigan State game, the Penn State game, where they didn't throw a single pass in the second half, they're like, well, it's because the run game was working so well. We didn't need them to throw. And it's like, to me, that's a close game. and you took the football out of your quarterback's hands because you didn't trust him to continue to extend the lead or win you the game. But this last week, what was against the Maryland game?
He struggled. That
Yeah,
interception was ugly.
We got I'm going to go ahead and read his stat line from that game here. So he was 12 of 23 with 141 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a pick. And this is actually pretty similar to how Michigan's game last year with Illinois went the week before Ohio State. Like that week is definitely a trap game. And I mean, Maryland, you can say what you want about them. They're 6-5 right now, but that's a team
good. They're pretty good.
That's a team that's good enough to like make some noise in a game like that if you don't take them like too seriously.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, you got Ohio State against Minnesota for their, quote unquote trap game, and they win 37-3. A little more. Yeah. McCord had like a typical game that he typically would have, 20 of 30, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Marvin Harrison wasn't really a factor in this game. I don't know if that's just because of like snap count.
I can tell you why.
What it was. I can tell you why.
Because he only played a half. He really only played a half. He played like, I think, a couple plays in the third quarter, but also they did a kind of a trap coverage where they pulled the safety all the way over to his side wherever he was. So basically they double covered him and sometimes triple covered because they had a linebacker underneath. So literally they were saying McCord beat us with, Carnell Tate or whoever it's going to be. And I think that's where I think they did not expect that because McCord kind of looked flustered when he saw this like triple coverage on Marv. So again, it's hard. It's like I tell people, like it's hard for Marv to do things that he can't control. He still got his touchdown, which was surprising.
Yeah. So that's going to be the interesting thing here is JJ going to be a guy that Michigan can look to if they need him to make some big plays here.
And Sawyer looked really good last week for High State. If you get him and JTT, if they can, because that's the one thing about Michigan's O-line. The outside was a little bit of a shaky. I've read some things about how people a little worried at the tackles just a tad, but you put JTT and Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer had 3.5 tackles for loss. He had a forced fumble. He had a sack, and JTT just does his thing. That's a scary 1-2 punch with Mike Hall returning inside. That's a scary front you got to deal with.
All right.
So what do we do have to give a score prediction, Josh? Like we have to.
We got to try.
We have to give it a try. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'd love to see your score prediction first.
I know you've
been on the high end for most of these games, and I've learned my lesson, much more conservative in my predictions.
Listen, I've learned my lesson when it comes to Ohio State playing games because I just blow out the water with the prediction here. No, I'm going to go. I do believe Ohio State wins this game. I know it's in Ann Arbor, but the role that Ohio State's playing on, obviously the team up north has been a little bit rough, I think, the last few weeks, especially almost losing that game to Maryland. I mean, you really take away a few stupid plays by Tagovailoa, and this game might be a little different last week. But no, I think Ohio State wins. I'm going to go 24-21 Ohio State. I think they get a lead early, and then they force Michigan to have to go to McCarthy's hands, and I think that's where he struggles. So I'm going to go 24-21. That's the key, I think, for Ohio State. That's one of my keys is that Ohio State has to get up early, kind of they did last week, and then just play the game at their pace. Let the defense do its thing, and then kind of go with them from there.
So I'm going to go with a 24-20 final. So it would be hitting the under. And I think that Ohio State's going to be able to do just enough.
Yeah. Right now, they've done all year.
Right now, yeah, just enough. Right now in my power rankings, I got them slightly above Michigan because I think they are a better team. I think there's a little bit more star power on their offense. I also think that actually Ohio State having their head coach on the sideline, say what you want about Harbaugh and all that, but having your head coach on the sideline, I think is huge too. And in a game like this where teams are so evenly matched, every little detail like that's going to matter, I think.
And you think about it too, Ryan Day's been in this game before. Now you have an offensive coordinator who has never been a head coach in this big of a game. And now you're saying, hey, go out and do this thing, right? As I always say, crying ain't going to win you many games. So we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, one of my bold predictions, though, is that Ohio State returns a punt return for a touchdown. I've not done that prediction at all in the last 2 years. I have this feeling Jaden Ballard has been close, like 3 games where he's gotten like a 15, 20-yard return. He's been a couple blocks away. So I'm going to go Jaden Ballard returns one to the house. And there will be a defensive lineman touchdown from either side. I just feel like there's a defensive lineman touchdown happening this week. I don't know how. It's going to be something. It's my bold P's for the game.
Well, that's going to be something.
Are you excited to watch? Are you going to watch it? Are you going to watch the game?
I will be. Yep. I'm going to be off work, so I'll definitely be
with the buddies, with the buddies, or you just by yourself? Just chilling.
TBD. Nobody's reached out about watching anything.
If you are listening and watching, if you have a Buckeye Ohio State party, you want to invite him to the tailgate, I'm sure Josh would love to join and watch the game.
Oh yeah. So after that, we can flip our channels over to CBS and watch the Iron Bowl, which is at Auburn this year.
Bowl.
Bama at Auburn. And we've even seen right now. Auburn does suck. I was just going to bring that up because it seems like even in seasons where Auburn doesn't look their best, they still every now and then play a pretty competitive game. But I think this Alabama team right now just keeps getting better every week. And I know it's a rivalry game. It's on the road. All these things are supposed to make it super close. But Alabama's a 14-point favorite right now, and it wouldn't shock me if they covered this by, even double. But with the way that Auburn looked last week.
Dude, they just paid a $1.8 million to get blown out by a team.
Yeah, I gotta look up what that team was. It was New Mexico State. Yes. Yeah, that beat them 31-10.
And they were terrible last year.
And they were not the kind of game you want to have when you're getting ready to go into your big game of the season. And Peyton Thorne did play their starting quarterback.
Yes. Hugh Freeze. I just want to know.
I also think this is going to be the worst Auburn team we're going to see under Hugh Freeze too. I think he's really going to do some stuff there, but it's just year one stuff.
I didn't hear what Crane Brothers did. Did you hear anything? Like, did you watch anything? Did they say anything about it?
I don't know what they have said this week yet, but I know before the season started, they predicted Auburn to win this game. Preseason.
I could just see them when they lost.
Right then and there, when we're like, we don't know what kind of Alabama team we're going to see.
But I do think
okay, Alabama could lose this one, but I still don't think that many people were as hyped up about Auburn's potential first season under Hugh Freeze as they were.
But I also do believe, though, it is like, I can only imagine them watching that game and then after making that prediction at the beginning of the year and then seeing them lose to a team they paid $1.8 million, I would have just been like, I don't want to talk anymore. Like, I know
Blaine was very upset about it on Twitter, but reminded everybody this is going to be the worst team that Hugh ever has.
But this is the thing, though. I think it was like New Mexico State like posted something or whatever. It was like they had like money. It was like money and said coming away with 1.8. And I was like, oh, geez.
Yeah. Alabama did not struggle against their FCS opponent last week, Chattanooga.
JV team.
Yeah, JV week for the SEC.
Well, I think Milroe only played at a half, right? He only played a half, I think.
He must have. He was 13 of 16, 197 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air. On the ground, he didn't actually only had a negative yard. So everything through the air in that one. Yeah, and Caleb Downs had a punt return for a touchdown.
Yeah. See, why can't Ohio State get that? Why can't? Yeah. And also, they recruited that guy.
Yep.
No, I'm gonna say Alabama. I'm gonna say Alabama wins. I'm sorry, Crane Brothers. I'm sorry. But Alabama wins. I'm gonna say, geez, I'm gonna say it's gonna be like, I'm gonna say 52 to 17. I'm gonna say 50.
I don't know if I'll go that high.
Listen, the only reason I'm saying that is because I don't feel like Nick Saban's just gonna like lay off the gas. I feel like he's just gonna be like, we're gonna put the pedal to the metal and just gonna grind this out. And
especially because right now, as the playoffs poll gets closer and closer to the end of the season, right now Bama's 8.
They're far out.
Yeah, right now they're 8, so they got to have a couple of these teams above. Like
Texas
we need a second Oregon loss, we need a second Texas loss, we probably need a Florida State loss.
Yeah.
Michigan or Ohio State's going to have a loss, and that could drop them out of that top 4 right now, depending on which one it is that loses the game. But yeah, so Alabama has to do everything they can, and like I said, they're getting better every week. Jalen Milroe's getting really comfortable. They're going to win this game really easily, I feel like.
Yeah, yes, that's good for me.
All right. So there's that's basically all the big time rivalries that you hear about, but obviously we also got North Carolina and NC State happening. We got Clemson at South Carolina happening. We got Georgia at Georgia Tech happening. We got my Gators hosting Florida State, a chance to spoil a lot of Seminole dreams in this one.
Do you think that happens there, sir?
So let me tell you something.
Oh
All
boy,
of Florida's big out of conference games last year and this year that were at the Swamp, they've been winning. They
that is
also beat
true.
Tennessee
Actually, it's
at the
true.
Swamp this year. They beat Utah at the Swamp last year. And we got Florida State coming in without Jordan Travis. I know the weapons, Keon Coleman and Jaheim Bell, are still there. And let me go
Florida
ahead and
is
tell you,
Florida what
Florida,
5 and are they 5-6 or 6-5?
they're 5-6, so they got bowl
They
eligibility
have to
on
win
the
this.
line
Yeah,
too.
they
They
have to
have
win
to
this.
win this, yes. And it's been rough last several weeks. So after our 41-39 win over South Carolina, we have lost to Georgia 43-20, Arkansas 39-36,
Should have lost
LSU
that game.
52-35, and then Missouri just got us last week 33-31. I don't believe that Florida is going to lose 5 straight games to end the season. It can't happen. This game's at the Swamp. It's a rivalry game. We have bowl eligibility on the line. We're going to get up for this.
You
And
sound
with
like a
Jordan
desperate
Travis
man.
out of the game, Florida is going to win. I convinced myself.
You sound like a desperate man.
It can't happen. It just can't.
All right. Well, Josh, for this reason and this reason only, Florida is going to win. But hear me out, Josh.
If
If
your
Jordan
disclaimer is
Travis,
only because Jordan Travis is out, I will
listen,
take it.
listen,
I don't care
Jordan.
if that's the only reason.
If Jordan Travis was playing this game, I would not even be thinking about Florida winning this game.
Well, I
But
probably wouldn't either.
just because Jordan Travis not played, I will say Florida wins this 20-17 on a game-winning field goal.
This is a game, honestly, even if Jordan Travis does play, because we've seen teams like Pitt and we've seen
That is
teams like
true.
Boston College and other inferior teams like that just hang with these guys. And that's another reason why I have not put them in my top 5 yet. While they are undefeated and they're winning, I don't think they're one of the top 5 teams in the country. But yeah, with
So
Jordan
there you
Travis out,
go.
I think this is like,
I've agreed with you on Florida for
yes.
once.
All right. So let's talk about one of these other games that is going on in the evening. So we got, as I mentioned, Clemson, who's back in the playoff poll now at number
Which is
24.
so weird after they just
Very
looked
weird.
so bad, dude. They looked so bad for so many weeks.
At South Carolina. Last year, this was like obviously the big upset game for South Carolina. It's on South Carolina's home field this year. Clemson's coming in as 7.5-point favorites. I didn't think it would be possible for USC and Lincoln Riley to go 7-5 in the season. I also am struggling to believe that Clemson could also be going 7-5 in a season under Dabo.
Is it
I think
weird?
this is a 8-win season.
Is it
for
ever
Clemson. They're getting this.
Is it weird for you to think that, like, don't you always feel like South Carolina should be in the ACC? It just is always weird. Every time I think of them, I feel like they're like an ACC.
I think it'd be more beneficial for them to be there in terms of winning, but they probably love being in the SEC, and it probably pays a little bit more with the TV contract right now. Yeah, so.
But it does make sense though. Like I feel like they're much more of an ACC like name. Like South Carolina just doesn't really sound SEC, you know. That's just my
opinion. If you have North Carolina, also have the South Carolina in there to go with it.
That'd be kind of cool. But anyways, to go with you, I just don't. I haven't seen enough out of South Carolina to go. Yeah, they're going to win this game. Poor Rattler. I mean, he's had the worst blocking I think of any quarterback, at least that I've been able to watch. I mean, he gets no protection. I mean, it's like within seconds that guy is scrambling for his life. It's funny to think that one day we were, back in, 2018, 2019, we were talking about this guy, 2019, 2020, talking about this guy being like a first round pick and, a future first round pick. And now we're like, this guy maybe not make the league. Right. So it's crazy how his careers went. I just think Dabo will not allow it to go 7-5. I think he's going to put everything he's got into this game just to get to 8-4. And again, I will say though, Dabo seat might be getting warmer even if he does win this game. I don't know how much you allow someone who's not willing to change with football to keep coaching your program. That's my hot take.
Yeah. So we've got UNC and NC State. Both are 8-3 right now. NC State is ranked 22. North Carolina unranked. But North Carolina is a 2.5-point favorite on the road in this one.
Yeah. I really like Drake May. I really like Walker, the wide receiver they've gotten back early this year. Their defense a little suspect every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take that high powered offense. And they got their running backs tied for the lead with Gordon from Oklahoma State for the lead for rushing yards at 1,444, I think. So I think I'm gonna take North Carolina in this by like 6. So I'm gonna take them. I think it's gonna be 28 to. I'm gonna say 27-21, and I also wanted to put my prediction that Clemson was gonna win 35-21. So, but I'm gonna say North Carolina beats North Carolina State 27-21.
Yeah, North Carolina just had a weird ending to their season. We were talking about
dude.
them maybe winning the ACC midway through the season. And then they lose to Virginia, Georgia Tech.
Which, by the way, Virginia is terrible.
Yeah, they are terrible.
So bad.
Lose to Georgia Tech. Just get by Duke. They handle Campbell as they should have. And then they lose to Clemson last week. And I don't know what the reason for this skid is, but it doesn't make me very optimistic. And as much as I do love Drake May, I think that NC State is going to get the job done in this one.
Well, this is the first one, I think. I think this is the first one today that we went opposite.
NC State also has been heating up lately, and I
didn't see that coming.
Yeah, heating up might be too strong of a term, but coming into the game, they have a win over Clemson, Miami, Wake Forest, and Virginia Tech. So they're riding a 4-game streak right now.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's another thing that's going to factor in here. NC State's the home team. They're coming in hot. North Carolina's coming in cold. Hot. I'll take NC State in this one.
I got you.
The other ones I don't think we have to go too in depth on, but I'll just mention them because they're playoff teams. We got Washington hosting Washington State, and then Georgia's at Georgia Tech.
Well, talk about Washington State, who was like, wasn't it like at the beginning of the year we were talking about them in like the playoff conversation, and now they've lost like 6
They had
straight?
they defeated Oregon State and Wisconsin, and I got like kind of excited about them.
Wait, what are they now?
I'll find the wins.
They're 5-6, right? Because I think they were 5-0 and they've lost 6 straight.
Okay, yeah, they beat Wisconsin and they beat Oregon State. So they started off the season 4-0. They had that loss to UCLA, and then they lost to Arizona. Then they lost to Oregon and Arizona State and Stanford and Cal and Colorado.
So they're 4-6 right now.
No, they're 5-6.
5-6.
Let me find the other win. I missed one or misspoke on one of them.
Because I thought they went 5-0 and then they lost 6 straight. Oh, that's what it was.
ESPN's must be screwing up here because
I could just do a
no. All right, maybe. Oh, okay, they beat Colorado. I misread that.
Okay.
They snapped their streak last week with the win over Colorado.
Because they were like, they did lose 6 in a row, and that was going to be 7 in a row.
They started off 4-0, and then they lost 6 in a row. Yeah.
Talk about streaky. Yeah, that is Army Navy's not this week, right? It's the following week, right?
They play after conference championship week. Yeah.
Which I love that game, man. That is my favorite game, man. Talk about Yeah. I think it should be. I think the Coast Guard should have a team. It should be like Air Force versus the Coast Guard during that week. I'm just kidding.
No, the Marines need to get it before the Coast Guard.
That's true. No offense to anybody that's in the Coast Guard. No offense at all. But anyways, shall we go into our power rankings, which I don't feel like they're changing too much, but let us hit these power rankings here real briefly. So for power rankings for myself, I had Florida State at 5, Washington at 4, Michigan at 3, Ohio State at 2, Georgia at 1. Josh had Oregon at 5, Washington at 4, Michigan at 3, Ohio State at 2, and Georgia at 1. Has yours changed? Go ahead and tell me your 5 there, Sergio.
I have Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, Washington 4, Oregon 5.
So you're staying the same. You feel like there's been no big movement in order for that to change, but you do think
there's been a lot of movement, maybe like outside the top 5. But as far as the top 5 goes, I've felt pretty solid about that.
This week could affect it. Like this week could affect it. Yes. For me, Josh, do you think I'm keeping Florida State at 5?
No, I do not, because I think you are going to be honest, unlike the committee, and say you're dropping them out because Jordan Travis's injury makes them a lesser team, which is the absolute truth.
1,000%. I am moving Oregon back in there. Like I said last week, they were very close. I'm going to put Oregon at 5. I'm going to Washington at 4, 3 Michigan. Sorry, 3 team up north. Let me correct myself. Sorry, Ohio State fans. 2 Ohio State, and 1 Georgia. Again, I think the top 2 are definitely separated themselves a little bit more than what the rest there have. That's for sure. Now for the fun time there, Mr. Josh. And we are going to talk about Heisman because I do believe our Heisman has changed a little bit. Let me go through Josh's. So Josh had Dylan Gabriel 1, Marvin Harrison Jr. 4.
No. Reread that. Dylan Gabriel 5.
Sorry. Dylan Gabriel 5. Sorry. Marvin Harrison Jr. 4, Bo Nix 3, Jaden Daniels 2, and Michael Penix Jr. 1. I had Dylan Gabriel at 5, Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. I had Bo Nix at 3, Michael Penix Jr. at 2, and I surprised the world and I put Jaden Daniels at 1. Let's start with number 5 there, sir. Let's start with your number 5.
All right. Marv had his 4th game, I believe, with less than 35 yards. So I'm going to keep him in my top 5 because of the touchdown, but I'm going to go ahead and bump him down to 5.
No worries.
I'm going to keep him in there. I think the talent is definitely there, and he deserves to be in consideration.
And you can't always control what the quarterback does with the ball.
Yeah, even though Minnesota definitely locked him up with that triple safety coverage, like you said, scared McCord away. Maybe Michigan will steal it.
But I don't think so because the way Michigan plays defense is a lot different than Minnesota. Minnesota is more like that zone kind of force you to just pick the poison that you want to pick with. That's kind of the way
they were just kind of we're going to take Marvin Harrison out of this, and the other guys can beat us.
everyone else can destroy us.
Yeah. But Marv down at 5, probably not his fault, but the talent is there, and nobody else has visibly jumped up.
Yeah,
in my
for
book.
Sure. 5 for me is I'm going to agree with you. I don't want to do this, but I think it's just it's hard to put someone that only had 30 yards receiving but did have a touchdown, right? I look what he does. Man, even the game, dude, he had a catch, by the way, that should have been a catch, by the way, if you watch the replay, where he dragged both feet, but they said the ball wasn't caught quite yet. I was like, that's interesting. That's not what I saw. But I want to say I'm going to keep him there, and I think this week could be a big game for him. I think if he goes out and let's say gets 160, 170 yards, dude, he's put himself right up there in the Heisman conversation if he has a game like that against Michigan, against a very good defense. So I'm going to put Marvin Harrison at 5. Who you got 4?
4, flip-flopping with Dylan Gabriel. Yep. Still right up there in the top 5 in total yards and total touchdowns this season. It's really going to help him too if Oklahoma wins this season and beats Texas or whoever it is in the Big 12 championship game. So I'm going to stick with Gabriel there at 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Gabriel at 4. Dylan has had, I think I was kind of high on. I think we were both kind of high on him early, and then obviously that loss we kind of felt like what's happening with him. But he's come back, man, and played very well. And I just gotta give him credit. Like you said, he's in the top in total yards, and he's actually a very good dual threat guy. So for me, I think it's very easy to put him in the top 4.
All right. I'm still thinking about my 3 because this is where it gets really interesting.
Mine shook up. I'll tell you, mine shook up. That's just a fact.
Shook up? Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, number 3 for me, I'm going to go with Michael Penix here.
Why do you have to steal my fire? Why do you have to steal my fire, you jerk?
I had him at 2 last week, right?
Yes, but still you stole my fire.
Yeah,
no, you didn't. No, you had him at 1 last week.
That's right. Yeah, I'm finally going to go ahead and put him down to 3. You can say it was
harsh.
You can say it was because of the rain, but even with these 2 ranked wins versus Utah and Oregon State, I feel like there's been other factors that have been helping Washington win just besides him, even though he's right up there in total yards and touchdowns still, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I gotta see a little bit more, I guess. And I've been seeing a little bit more from the other guys in the field, if you will, lately. So Michael Penix is at 3 right now.
Thanks for stealing my thunder, bud. Yes, for me, Michael Penix has dropped. Again, I think it kind of goes what you said last week. It's necessarily a combination of both. It's not everything that he's done, but it's also what the other guys have done. I think for him, at times, he's looked like maybe not the best quarterback in the country. Especially when he faces a decent or competent defense. And the weather, for some reason, affects him a lot worse than the other guys, I feel like. I don't know why that is.
Up there in the Pacific Northwest, man, it rains a lot.
He did choose that. but no, I think Michael Penix Jr. again. I think the top three, and maybe you can agree with me, Josh. The top three is very close.
The
Like
top three has
it's
separated
it's
themselves from the
it's
pack. Yeah.
it's so tight in that top three. I again, like we always say, Marvin Harrison's probably gonna be that token guy they throw in there as that fourth guy just to have a position
Token
player.
non-quarterback.
Yeah, which is happens every year. But
yeah.
So I'm gonna go Michael Penix Jr. at 3.
All right. Number 2, Bo Nix.
Oh wait, steal my thunder again! Yay!
No. You had Bo at
I had Bo at 3 last week.
okay, but you didn't have him first, right?
You'll have to wait and see.
All right. Well, yeah, Bo continues to do Bo
He had a
Nix things,
great
man.
game last week.
Yeah, bottom line. So that's about all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I think the reason why I've also moved Bo Nix up to number 2 is just like that game he had, man. Just the opposite of what Michael Penix Jr. had. I just think he's proven himself to be a lot more competent than I think we sometimes maybe give him credit for. I think sometimes he just doesn't play full games, and it's just like, all right. So again, Bo Nix is their number 2 for me.
Mm-hmm.
And number 1 is pretty easy for both of us, I think.
Yeah. He leads the nation in total yards and total touchdowns. It's Jaden Daniels.
Oh,
yeah, I don't care that LSU has 3 losses right now. It's not Jaden Daniels' fault. You can look at the box scores. And his opposing quarterbacks that you want to say outplay him in those games aren't facing the LSU defense. I've also seen a lot of guys saying that Jaden Daniels would be a backup quarterback if he was at Washington and Oregon. And this just, man, there's a narrative out there to get Jaden Daniels not the Heisman for some reason. But I'm going to go ahead and put my stamp of approval on it. I've been holding out because of the record, but right now it's like the numbers just keep getting better, dude. I don't want it to be the best player on the best team in the country. I want it to be the most outstanding.
Player, yeah.
And Jaden Daniels has been playing outstanding football.
He does remind me of a guy. I never thought I'd compare something to a Florida QB, but he reminds me a lot of Anthony Richardson, like so much, like just like maybe not the body build, but just
Jaden
like
Daniels
the way he
is what Anthony Richardson was supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. Like just like the way he plays is what I think people wanted Richardson to be at Florida.
Yeah,
but it's Florida, so we can't expect quality quarterback play. I'm sorry, that was harsh. But no. So there's our top 5 for each. I hope that is an encouraging top 5. Let us know in the comments what you think. Do you agree or disagree? But before we end today's show, Josh, we need to talk about the somehow 7-3. Yes, let me repeat this: 7-3, second place in the AFC North, 5th place overall in the AFC. Cleveland Browns.
Yes.
Who would have thought? After losing Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, give or take, I think before the season started, if you would have told me we'd be 6-4 or 7-3 at this point, I'd have been like, yeah, but I don't think it would have been because I thought we were winning the way that we have been.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's been, I mean, let's be honest. People kept telling they fired, obviously, Canada or whatever.
Matt Canada.
Yeah. They fired him, and it's so funny because, they're like, oh, their offense played terrible. I'm like, if you look at the Browns offense, if it's the opposite way around, they'd probably do the same thing. I mean, it's just, they played all so terrible. But again, I think the difference is that when, Pickett has thrown as many touchdown passes as like Stroud's thrown more than him in his rookie season is bizarre to me. But that's a whole nother story. But what do you think about this defense, man? Myles Garrett is an absolute men among boys out there. He truly is.
Yeah. This is what we needed. Split the series with Pittsburgh, split the series with Baltimore now, and I don't think we've played Cincinnati a second time, right?
Yeah, and it's not a hugely tough schedule down the road. There's not many tough games left.
The only problem is
they play Texans though.
We're playing quarterback with.
Hey, we did sign Joe Flacco. Guys. What did you think about the Joe Flacco? Is it weird for you? Because for me, it's super weird, and I don't feel comfortable with it.
That was really weird. Yeah, out of all the other quarterbacks that were available, that wasn't one that I saw coming.
I don't think either of us wanted it, probably, either as Browns fans, with how much damage that man caused in Cleveland.
Yeah. Well, it's not even that. It's just like I don't even think he's like he can play football right now. But then you look at the guys that we've been throwing out there, and it's like maybe he can a little bit better.
I think maybe you could play quarterback for the Cleveland Browns right now.
Man, with the defense that we have, all I need to do is make sure that the kick returner can get us to like maybe the opposing team's 25, and then I can like take 3 straight knees, and then Dustin Hopkins can get us 3.
Dude, what about Dustin Hopkins? Was that the greatest trade the Browns have made in a long time? He has been phenomenal.
You hate to say it, like maybe
it might be
especially
the
when
best
we've made
trade.
trades for guys like Zadarius Smith and Amari Cooper, and that's
Dude,
the one that's been maybe one of the most important.
He leads the NFL in points and field goals, and he's hit some of the most clutch field goals in probably Browns history. I hate to say that, but he's hit some really big field goals already. But it does make you think, Josh, and I know you said this year, Josh Dobbs being traded, getting rid of Baker Mayfield. Do you look at that now? I want to ask you this as a Browns fan. Does it frustrate you more that we might never see a fully healthy Deshaun Watson, or does it frustrate you more that you gave up something that was giving you something good?
First, I'm going to say this. Deshaun Watson missed basically a whole season in Houston, then was traded to Cleveland and missed like a whole season because of the suspension and played like 6 games. Then coming into this season, he played what, like 5 games?
Yeah.
6 games. Then he's going to go into next year. And if he still continues to play the way he does and people are still going to like come out and say he needs more time, I'm going to be like, how much more time does this guy need? He was traded for 3 first-round picks and given a $230 million guaranteed contract. Like the time argument will be gone by that point, as it should have already been this year. I was even like willing to like hear out like, okay, 1 game for an injury, like 1 game comeback, from an injury, and then you can be good like the next week. The next week is like when I'll start taking it seriously. But it's just, if it continues to be this way, it's not a good trade. And yeah.
It's not like Baker's been lining it up, but we knew what we had with Baker. We knew he was going to go out there even when he was injured, even though we didn't want him to. He would still go out there and try to win his games. Dude, the man won us our first playoff game in years, and that's how you treat him. It's still. Again, I was more for getting someone new than you were, but I still was like, now looking back, I'm like, maybe we shouldn't have. And again, my thing is, if he's more injured next year, I think they eat the contract. I think they're going to be at a point where there's like, screw it, we're releasing you, we'll eat the money and deal with whatever we have to, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to re-sign Amari Cooper this offseason if you want to keep him. You have to, like, Nick Chubb only has, I think, 1.5 years, 2 years left on his deal. You have to maybe sign some of these guys, and are you going to be willing to? But I will say another thing that Barry did great. DeJuan Jones might be the diamond in the rough they found in the 5th round that is turned out to be
round 4
against TJ Watt. He had 19 snaps against JT Watt, or 19 pressures, gave up 0 hits on the quarterback and 0 sacks. By the way, he's 6'8", 360. Just put that in perspective.
Yep, he's got the lemon body, no doubt,
and he's phenomenal. But no, the Browns played great. Upcoming game against the Broncos, Josh. How are you feeling? Because Broncos are on fire right now. They're playing.
Yeah,
very,
Russell
very well.
Wilson actually hasn't played so bad.
No,
they aren't as big of a joke as what I thought they'd be when the season started off. So they're coming into this game with a 5-5 record. They're the home team.
In Denver, which is a hard place to play.
Mile High City, yep, as always. Russell Wilson's been playing some good games lately. They're coming off wins over the Vikings and the Bills and the Chiefs and the Packers.
Yeah,
crazy.
So
little stretch right there.
So how are you feeling about this game? Like, what is your? Because I know they're going to say the DTR started again this week. What are some of your keys for the Browns this week, and what do you think the final score will be?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the way that we're going to continue to win games with DTR quarterback is the way that we won against the 49ers with PJ, and the way that we won last week against Pittsburgh. The defense has to hold the Broncos and Russell Wilson to the teens.
Yeah.
If they get to the 20-point mark, I'm saying it's a Denver victory. And I think Russell Wilson, honestly, has been playing too good of football to be limited to under 20. Yeah. I don't think that this is going to be a game that we win, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. By the way, I had someone comment that said you're not the score prediction guy, which I think is hilarious. We need a shirt for that. Just like an arrow pointed up. I don't do score predictions. No, I'm going to say that I'm going to go counter you, and I'm going to say opposite of you. I think the Browns defense does show up because they did this against the 49er offense. If they can do that against the 49er offense, I don't care how good the quarterback is. They did something very well against a very good offense. And I'm going to say Browns win this game. I'm going to go 19-10. No. I'm going to go 19-13. I'm going to say Dustin Hopkins hits. Hold on, let me count here. I'm going to go
5,
1, 2, 3. I'm going to say, hold on. Yeah, I'm going to say 4 field goals. He's going to hit 4 field goals. We're going to score 1 touchdown. And that one touchdown, by the way, pick 6 by Myles Garrett. I don't even think we scored an offensive touchdown. I don't think we scored an offensive touchdown. I think it's going to be like a defensive touchdown.
See, that's how it's going to have to be. That's how they're going to have to win the game.
Yes. So I'm going to say 19-13, the Browns.
All right.
Dustin Hopkins hits some clutch field goals like early on in the game. Give us like probably like a 13-0 lead at half. And then we kind of survive like we did this past week.
Sounds good. I hope it can happen.
That is true. Well, Josh, there's also been not a lot of other crazy news. I know you're like, but there's other sports. Let's be honest, guys. There's nothing going on really outside of
I did
football
see
right
the
now.
Diamondbacks made a trade for Suarez.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
oh wait, my dad. That's why my dad texted me. That makes sense then. My dad said,
yeah, when I was
Suarez
checking like some other stats, I saw that and was like, oh, interesting.
Interesting trade. I don't know if it's really worth it because he strikes out way too much.
They really didn't have a third baseman though.
No, they didn't.
Longoria is on his way out.
That is true. We will see, but we hope you have a great rivalry weekend. Make sure you got to have some fun. Hey, if you're a split household, we know those people out there. You obviously there's some part of the team up north. There's some for Ohio State. Could be Auburn and Alabama. Hey, if you're a split household, love each other up until game time, and then you can, just have lesser lovey feelings, I guess, at times. I don't know. But I hope you have a great weekend watching games. I know Josh is going to be reclining in the chair, watching games all day, eating his popcorn, his maybe Chipotle. I don't know what he's going to eat. I not like I know what he eats on a daily basis. Probably way healthier than me. But no, let us know in the comments. What is your game day food for this weekend? What are you going to be eating? What are you going to be going to the fridge to get when a big game's happening? And give us your score predictions below as well. So once again, thank you so much for watching. If you love this on YouTube, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And if you've been listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, share the link with friends and family. And until next time, we'll see ya.